Are
It
we
is
recording?
recording now. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Here we are on The Blind Man in Black. And I'm here with my dear friend, activist, author, deprofessionalized intellectual, Gustavo Esteva. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Very well, Brian. Thank you for inviting me to your program.
It's my pleasure. It's always an honor to have you. And I would like to mention to everybody listening and watching that this is actually part two of a previous conversation, episode 23, and this is episode 24. So, the last conversation we had, we were talking about how COVID-19 is affecting our lives. I was saying I was terrified. Gustavo was sharing his experience. And then we ended up ending the conversation talking about listening deeply with the intent of being transformed by the other person and also hope. So, this is where we begin the discussion about hope.
Yes, and first I would like to really to connect with listening, because you remember I
Oh, wait,
mentioned
before
you
we
that.
start, let me say one thing.
Yeah.
Rachel wanted me to send her love to you.
Okay. Please embrace her in my name. Not
I will.
only your own hug, but my hug for her.
Okay, I will.
Excellent.
I
Excellent.
want I wanted to tell you before we started, so I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. But go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying that to begin with hope, because of the lockdown, because of this individualistic confinement that is eliminating hope, in fact, and reducing us to individual bodies. Um, I would like to say that listening um, is the most important point in our interaction with others. And listening, as I said, and Comandante Tacho, Zapatista Comandante Tacho said once, to listen is not just to hear the other, but to be ready to be transformed by the other. And this is the point. To interact, we need to interact with others. We need, instead of being locked down, instead of being confined in one place in our houses, we need to interact with others. And in spite of the fact that we need to use these technologies, for example, we cannot see each other, Brian, unless we use this virtual technology,
Hmm.
knowing that virtual is not real, that it is just an image, but still we can use this technology as the only way to communicate with each other in these times. We cannot visit each other. I cannot embrace you physically, but I can embrace you at a distance. Then, with listening the other, we can then nourish hope. First of all, I would like to insist on the difference between hope and expectation. This, as you remember, we learned it from Ivan Illich at the end of the Schooling Society in one amazing essay that I strongly recommend to every person to read it again and again. He anticipated very well what is happening today. And that essay at the end of the Schooling Society, it is really separated from the book. I don't know exactly why he put it in that book. It's the renaissance of the Epimethean man. And in that magnificent essay, in the first page, he explains what is the difference of the expectation and the hope. Expectation, he says, is that you assume that something will happen after your action, as a consequence of your action. You are producing that specific result. The classic movies, I will do A, B, C, and then I will have D. And we were educated in this idea of expecting the outcome of our action. From the very beginning, we go to the school because through the school we will learn something, but basically to have a diploma and then after the diploma we will have a job, etc., etc. I study, I get the diplomas A, B, C, and then I will have the job that is D. In the job, I will do A, B, C, and then I will have an improvement, an increase in the salary, better conditions, whatever.
Yeah,
This
I remember that. Getting my undergraduate degree and then working on my master's degree in directing at UCLA. After I got out, I immediately thought, I don't feel qualified to teach anything, and but I had an expectation that if I did that, if I received that master's degree, that I would uh, get work from that. And anyway, it didn't happen the way I expected it. That's all I'm saying.
and that is the usual thing, and we are today living in a planet that has no comparison with the planet that created this expectation. In January 1953, I started my studies in the Universidad Iberoamericana to start a new profession, something like business administration, industrial relations. And in the first day of my class, the first day of the first year of my studies in the university, they told us that there were three jobs waiting for us. They were ready to give us the jobs because we were studying such a thing. And Brian, after 2 or 3 years, we all the students of that profession had magnificent jobs in our field before the end of our profession. Before we had the diploma, we had already the promise fulfilled. That was in the 50s. And because that was the situation, they were creating jobs, they were in need of this kind of new professionals, they were hiring us, and this created the illusion, the expectation. Every student today in any university in the world know that that is not true. It's no longer true. It's not true that there are jobs waiting for the people with diplomas. That is an illusion. That's a fantasy. But that is expectation. In contrast with expectation that I will produce, I have control of the future. And I do some things, I will have a specific outcome. We have calm, hope. And first, I want to use the definition that I already mentioned, but I want to repeat. I repeat all the time this phrase by Václav Havel. This phrase that says, "Hope is not the conviction that something will happen in a certain way, but the conviction that something makes sense whatever happens." This is my conviction. This is what we can now call hope. It's the conviction that we need to do things that make sense. Most of the time, through expectations, we are not doing things that make sense. You remember, Brian, studying a lot of stupid things in the school in every grade. All the time we were discussing the students, well, this is stupid, this has no sense. Yes, that is exactly what we learn, many things without any sense. That is the construction of expectations. The construction of hope is to do things that make sense. Um, you remember that I used the example of the campesino, of the peasant. The day he is putting the seed in the soil, on the soil, it is because to do that makes sense that very day. He knows that that day is the day to put the seeds. He does not have the expectations to have the crop because he knows that there we will have rain or not, we'll have good conditions of weather or not. There are a lot of uncertainty. He cannot really have the expectation of having the crop in a certain day in November. but he nourished the hope. You remember that I also insist in the expression in Spanish. In Spanish, you don't say I have hope. You say abrigo esperanzas. I warm them for them not to freeze. I care for the hope. I cultivate the hope. I can nourish the hope,
Mhm.
but it's not to have hope mechanically.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion, and I hear this from my age group. A lot of people saying, "Fuck hope." If a friend of mine was saying that, she was saying, those that have trauma don't have hope because they know the worst that can happen. And um, so, what do you say to those that say "fuck hope"?
Among other things, there are a whole school of thinking saying that hope paralyzes. That
Yeah.
if you have hope, then you are hoping that things will happen. But that is exactly what happens with expectation, not with hope. Because with hope, you know that things can happen or not.
Hmm.
And then you are not just expecting that things will happen. If the campesino put the seed in the soil, it's not just he will sit and wait for the crop. No, he need to care for the plants and do a lot of things during the whole process. He's very active, cultivating that hope, trying to prevent problems and to do a lot of things before having the crop. The people with hope is all the time. I think even the words express this. In expectation, you are just expecting. You are
Hmm.
things will happen because you did the right thing, and then people are often surprises because they did the right thing, and what happened was not what he or she was expecting. There is a lot of frustration around the world in these years because things are not happening as the people were expecting. But that was not hope, because in hope, you are not paralyzed, but uncertain. We don't, you don't know what will happen. You are not sure of that things will happen. But we need, Illich said in that essay that the survival of the human species depends on recovering hope as a social force. And this is something different of what we are talking. It's not to nourish hope, to have hope, but it is to transform hope into a social force. And that is exactly the opposite of paralysis. Let's be together, Brian, and let's do things that make sense together.
Hmm.
And that is nourishing hope and using hope as a social force. Because we are using, we are doing this together, and we have this communal force of being together to do certain things that make sense, we will we can change the world. That is the difference.
I'd like to go back just a little bit and discuss listening, and listening with the willingness to be transformed by the person uh, that is talking. Now, my question is, with someone, and I touched on this a little bit in the last interview. Is my question is how do you how do you engage with someone of a completely opposite worldview, and there's this kind of thing now with social media, and everybody just screaming at each other, and social media has become weaponized, and everybody's mic dropping, which in America, that's a saying for just I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to drop the microphone and not say anything else. and then nobody else has an opportunity to say anything. So, I mean, we're in this very violent, um, I guess, way of communicating. How and everybody is so polarized. How do we begin that discussion? How do we listen?
Um, the question in listening, the first point is trying to think uh, not only if you have any coincidence or difference with the other, but trying to understand why the other is saying what he or she is saying. That is the point.
Can you give an example from your life, something like a high conflict situation where two individuals were talking and the other who was listening was transformed in a very high conflict uh, conversation?
Well, I can go to the past, to very old situations, but we have this all the time now because we are polarized. Uh, we are polarized for two different reasons in Mexico. One area of difference is one area of conflict is the people that believe in the new Messiah and then consider that everything that he is what he is doing is okay, and we are resisting because what he is doing is terrible for many indigenous people. And then we have a confrontation even with people that were our friends and our allies and that were in our side. And then the problem is not to confront them and argue with them and say that his Messiah is the demon himself, is Satan. It is our enemy. But try to understand why he is abandoning any judgment, refusing to see what this guy is doing because he fully believes that he is the Messiah. And then I can see that for years and years and years, we were cheated, and this guy promised he was against the system and promised to represent the poor people, the poor guys, etc., in the government. And he embraced this possibility as his last hope. He don't see, he does not see any other possibility, but that this Messiah can change everything and will benefit him. And then the question is how to convince him of something else. It is next to impossible, and you start to fight terrible. But it will be very complex perhaps to share the level of conflict that is created, that this is creating every day in our lives, and how we are solving that problem. Because I think we are having today a conflict and that is also happening there all the time. Um, I would say we also have the people that can assault the White House in the name of their beliefs. We also have people that can speak that language of racism. But beyond that, that is a complex issue. We have many people that accept really with the absolute conviction the idea of the lockdown and the need that we all should be confined to prevent the contagion with the virus. And there are many people like me the thing that is that was not the proper um, policy, the proper decision. That there are many other things that we need to do because of the virus, and you have immediate confrontation, Brian, and we can have very violent confrontation because of this. And I'm talking not talking of the people confrontation with the people that deny the very existence of the virus or laugh at him. We have that people here, people that are absolutely irresponsible, that are they are saying that the virus is an invention of the government, that the virus does not exist, or the virus is irrelevant, and the virus cannot create any problem. Of course, it exists, and of course, it's a threat, and of course, it can create a lot of problems. The question, our discussion should be about what to do. But now the problem is to ask why the other person is absolutely convinced that the right thing to do is to lock down. Why suddenly in the almost half of the people on earth obeyed that instruction with
I mean, I can tell you just from my own experience, and I said it in the last episode. I'm terrified, of losing loved ones and so on, and it's really scary. And I mean, I don't know what to say. It's I have trust issues with the medical system and the pharmaceutical companies, and there's a lot of issues that I have, but also, it's like, who do you trust? What do you do? You want to trust in something, and science seems logical, um,
the point
and
for me will be why you are terrified. The point in listening,
mm,
I'm not telling you, Brian, you are wrong. No, it's telling you what is happening, why you are terrified. Let's explore why you are terrified. Let's try to listen to you, not to condemn you or to disqualify you and to say I am right and you are wrong. It is why you are terrified. And of course, you already said part of it. I am very anxious, not just for myself, but my loved ones. I don't want my wife or my mother with the virus and in the real risk of dying because of the virus. And then we need to understand that it is uh, the first point is it is not a rational reaction, but an emotional reaction full of love. You are first of all concerned out of love for your loved ones, and you want to do something to protect them. And there, this is the first point that you need to understand, that you are not having an irrational behavior or a stupid behavior or a subordinate behavior. You are reacting with love. You are saying, I need to do something. Given this threat, I need to do something. It's the same emotional act that in someone you are going in the street with your wife and someone attacks you. You put first of all your own body. You prefer to be hurt yourself, not your wife. Your immediate reaction, your love reaction is um, putting your body uh, before the attack and trying to protect your wife. It's the immediate love reaction. It's not a question of reason. It's not assuming that you are stronger or whatever. It is just pure love. It is natural thing to do. If you are going with her child, you will do exactly the same to protect him, to put your body in danger to protect him. And that is love. Well, it is exactly the same, I think. And then let's think, if it is because of love, then let's talk what is the best to protect your loved ones. And one of the things that I would say is that we have a lot of uncertainties about the virus. We don't know many things. There are some things that we know for sure. All the doctors of all the different positions, arguments, stories, etc., will tell you something that, of course, before any virus, we need to resist. And this is what they call the immune system, that you have an immune system that need to be activated to resist the virus. And all the experience and many scientific studies and many things will tell you the worst before a bacteria or a virus, the way to weaken your immune system is fear, depression, anxiety.
Yeah, I know I'm experiencing. I mean, this past week, I've been I've been just overwhelmed with anxiety, and today I was so anxious, and this is just because worried about the virus. It's becoming closer. I feel it's closing in closer and closer, and it's becoming unavoidable. And I felt sick to my stomach today because of it, because just worried about my wife, my mother and stepfather, my stepson, and friends and everybody. I just don't know how it's going to react. How, if somebody gets it, are they just going to have no symptoms? They're going to be asymptomatic? Are they going to be having mild symptoms, or are they going to die?
Yes. Half of the people in Unitierra had already the virus, already,
Hmm.
meaning that they were sick. They got the virus and they had the test and they had the virus. In San Pablo Etla, in the small village where I live, now it is closer and closer.
Hmm.
One person died, a person that living at a few hundreds of meters from the place where I live. And in the last week, I got information. When we come from the city to our house, we cross in San Pablo Etla 4 houses with people that had the virus or is having the virus right now, meaning the virus is already in San Pablo Etla.
Hmm.
And in coming just yesterday, coming to my house yesterday, in crossing one house, I saw a doctor and a truck with an oxygen, bringing the oxygen to a house because of virus. That is real. The virus is there. And then how to deal, first of all, with this anxiety, this depression. Brian, we have already studies showing that more people have died because of the lockdown, because of suicides and depression and anxiety and these kind of things, that because of the virus. Then whatever it is, we need to first of all recognize that the first question to deal with is anxiety and depression and fear. That before the virus, just to be prepared for the virus, to protect your loved ones, first, the first things to do is to reduce the level of anxiety, because that is the best thing to do to strengthen your immune system.
I have no idea how to do that right now. I mean, I have some ideas, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is the first point is this. You know the campaign that we are having now in Oaxaca. The name of the campaign is Against Fear, Hope. And then
Hmm.
how to deal with this, with your fear? But it's the fear of many, many sensible people around the world. Many people that are afraid of the virus for solid reasons. Then, how to nourish the hope? How to struggle against the fear with hope? Was saying basically what do we need to do to strengthen our immune system to resist the virus? Meaning, perhaps the first argument is not how I prevent contagion, because as you said just a few minutes ago, it is around, it is close. We don't know exactly how to avoid it, but how can we discuss how to resist it, how to strengthen our immune system, you and your loved ones, and your stepson, and your wife, and your mother? What can be done for that specific purpose? And immediately we can nourish hope because we can do a lot of things for that purpose. First, to reduce the anxiety, we need to do some things. And to do some things is, for example, to improve what you are eating. And you can change in days the condition of your immune system just improving your eating, the kind of things that you are eating, reducing the kind of things that weaken your immune system, and increasing the kind of things that strengthen your immune system. And this is for you and your mother and your wife and your stepson. And that will be action immediately to strengthen you and to give you the power, the capacity to resist the virus. Brian, Nicole and I are people at high risk. We are those dying. We are in our 80s and both of us have health problems. You should be terrified. We are the ones that should be terrified because we are at extreme risk and we are surrounded by people with virus. What Nicole? We are not terrified. We have not been anxious. We are surprised of seeing the anxieties of others. And why? Because we are, of course, we are taking care. Whenever we go outside, we try to have the mask, and we try to clean our hands all the time. We try to use to alcohol and other ways to clean our hands. Whenever if we touch one coin, one peso, immediately we wash our hands, and we try to do a lot of sensible things to prevent, to reduce the opportunities of contagion. We are not denying, we are not declaring that it's not a risk, but we are accepting some risks. We are accepting the possibility of getting the infection because we have been preparing ourselves for many, many months now. We have been doing the right kind of things with our food, with the kind of things we eat or not eat, the kind of things that we eliminate from our diet, the kind of things that we increase. There are many, many things. Some are very well known to have not an apple day that was the traditional slogan, one apple day.
Keeps the
Uh,
doctor away.
yes.
Mhm.
Now, an avocado a day keeps the virus away because the avocado has all kind of things that are good to strengthen, and the avocado is magnificent. It's a very, very magnificent plate to have an avocado.
Mhm.
Of course it's a little expensive, but particularly in your place, but an avocado a day keeps the virus away.
Mm.
uh, there are This is one of the many things that you can do to improve your diet. Of course, you need to reduce sugar, to, if possible, to eliminate sugar from as much as possible from your diet, to avoid coke, to avoid all these kind of terrible things, all junk food, um, trying to avoid processed food. All these kind of things are excellent to strengthen your immune system, and that is the kind of things that we can do to improve our conditions. And this applies for your mother, for your wife, for your stepson. Perhaps it is not so much to say we were. If you are convinced that the only way is to avoid contagion, you are you cannot avoid anxiety.
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I used to practice Buddhism, and one of the four there's like four inescapable sufferings. It's birth, sickness, old age, and death.
Hmm.
And I think about that a lot because it's they're inescapable. Um, and so sickness is one of them. And I think about that. I'm like, maybe I don't know what to do. It's I think I think it's difficult for me as a person that has a degenerative disease, Usher syndrome type 2A, which causes blindness and deafness, because it's a betrayal of my own body. And that is, you know, disease. There's no way to mitigate it sometimes. It's inescapable. And that's why it's so scary. Sometimes there's just no way to prevent it.
Um, as there is no way to prevent death,
Hmm.
and this is one of the most important facts of life. We will die. This is part. We have been discussing this. One central element of the art of living is the art of suffering and the art of dying. It should be really a condition for the real art of living, to know the art of suffering and dying.
My wife, as you know, Rachel, she just on Sunday lost a very close friend, but she was able to be there until the end and help him make the transition peacefully.
That is glorious. That is very beautiful. That is great. I know that is one activity that Rachel is close to that kind of situation. That is part of her work, um, and that is fantastic because many people have lost that art. They are afraid. They die in lots of fear. They fight against death. One of our most beloved doctors, a COVID doctor, told us, I think I mentioned this the other time, told us how much she suffered because in the hospital, a guy, 98 years old, said, Doctor, I want to die. I don't have any reason to continue living, but I want to die. But before dying, I want to see my daughter and my granddaughter, and I want to die in my bed.
Hmm.
Please let me go. And she was not able to let him go because that is the rule. They cannot leave the hospital. And then he died alone in his room. And this is
Mm.
absolutely horrible what they are doing with that kind of situation. This is that is why many people here are no longer going to the hospital, even those in very serious situation. Because even in the case of dying, they don't want to die in that way.
Mm.
But more and more, we are seeing that it is not only that most people, that this is the most important conviction, Brian. Most people have no problem with the virus, meaning They have no symptoms, 80%, and 15% have a mild cold or a serious cold, but something that they can recover very easily. And only 5% have a serious problem. And then let's see what is this serious problem and how you can deal with that serious problem. And we are seeing more and more people dealing with that serious problem with alternative ways, not medication and not just oxygen and not a hospital, with alternative ways that includes, first of all, recovering calm, struggling against anxiety, even if you have the virus. Not be anxious. Wait. Let's do the right things that we need to do. And we can do an immense kind of things to
Yeah, I
do.
was thinking that would probably be the worst thing to do is panic while you're having trouble breathing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing. The worst thing, not to panic. And then there is a lot of things to do to deal. And you have that most of the people that got the virus are now recovered, are now well, of every age, of every condition, even people with diabetes and hypertension and all these kind of things. And then we need to study that and to explore that and to deal with it. But the whole point that we are discussing is how to listen to you and your almost panic, your anxiety. You for moments are in panic that your wife or your mother will have the virus and that they will die. Did I tell you?
And I'm panicked if I think about you and Nicole as well. I'm worried. I started remaking. I had a realization. Um, I realized yesterday. I was thinking I'm doing these interviews, right? And I feel like this uh, urgent need to do these interviews, and part of it is I don't know when I'm going to see anybody again.
Yes, I know, and I can tell you, um, I am ready to die, but today I don't want to die because I have lots of things to do. I have lots of dreams and lot of practical things to do. I am not interested in dying right now, but I'm ready to die. I know I am in the age, in the conditions that people are dying. I am losing without the virus. I am losing a close friend every month because of the age, because my friends are dying because this is the age to die. This is the normal age to die. Did I tell you something about how my grandmother died? Did I tell you the stories in this conversation?
I I don't believe so, but please do tell us.
It's, she was a fantastic woman, a Zapotec. She had her five daughters in different cities of Mexico, and then she was traveling alone in a bus from one daughter to the other daughter. She loved all the fiestas, and then she went to another city far away because they were having a marriage or a baptism or whatever. She loved to go and celebrate with others and stayed for some time with the daughter for a few months, and then the other daughter, etc. And then one year, she was 95 years old. She stayed with my mother in Mexico City and started to celebrate in a peculiar way every special fiesta. Then in Christmas, she said, "Oh, this is my last Christmas. I will enjoy it like mad." And then she was celebrating the Christmas, very excited because she said it was her last Christmas. And she said the same about several fiestas. And then, after a whole cycle of fiestas ended, and then she was already 96 years old, she invited her most loved um, grandsons and granddaughters, and she prepared a magnificent dinner for us, a very good dinner. and we were there, something like a dozen granddaughters and grandsons with her, with my mother and another aunt, and we were all together celebrating that dinner prepared by my grandmother. And later we remembered that she gave us an special kiss to say goodbye before retiring, and then she kissed every one of us, and then she went. She left to go to her bed and died sleeping 4 or 5 hours later.
Mm.
Meaning that when she was 95 years old, she came to the conclusion this is a good time to die. This is a good time to leave the planet. And then she celebrated the fiestas that she loved. She was able to say goodbye to her loved ones in peace and calmly abandon the planet. That is the art of dying. She was happy to the last minute. She lived her life to the last minute. She knew how to live, how to enjoy life, how to fully be in this planet. But she also knew how to leave the planet. I think, Brian, that is not the time for you to leave the planet or for me to leave the planet. I am ready to die, but I don't want to die. I will not do now what my grandmother did. This is not my time to live. I have still a lot of things to do, not for my pleasure, but the kind of things that I need to conclude my tasks, my activities, my commitments with my people. And then I know I need to do, I still want to do a lot of things before dying. But that is not to be afraid of dying. It's to know that this can happen because of the virus, because of a car accident, because for many reasons, because a heart attack, because of many reasons, we can die at any moment. Recovering a sense of our human conditions. You know, if everything goes well, Edgar Morin will die, will have 100, will celebrate his 100th anniversary in July the 8th, next July the 8th.
Who?
Edgar Morin,
Okay.
Morin,
Hmm.
a French thinker,
Okay.
very famous as a sociologist. And he had an interview in January 1st. And of course, the interviewer wanted to really get everything from him because he is famous and he knows a lot of things and he has published a lot of books and the interviewer wanted to have all kinds of arguments from Moran. And Moran presented only one argument. He said, we need to learn how to live with radical uncertainty. We were already in a terrible crisis and we were not aware of it. And we were living with the statistics and with projections and assuming that we have a kind of stability. And then we need to live, to learn to live with uncertainty. We don't know what will happen. But I am using this example to say that is recovering the human conditions because no one knows what will happen. We have been educated in the stupid idea that we can control the future, that we can know the future. Now, in the current conditions, nobody knows the future. Nobody knows what will happen. Nobody, all the deep trends of the society are destroyed. Then we need to live. We need to learn how to live again with radical uncertainty, mean that we don't know what will happen tomorrow in the world.
That reminds me of Eric Fromm's quote about You said the greatest psychological task is to learn to tolerate insecurity.
Yes, this is, yes, yes, this is the same thing, exactly the same kind of thing. You cannot be sure what will happen tomorrow morning with the virus or without the virus. And because that is the human condition, because that is our real condition, let's learn to live joyfully, accepting that condition.
Now, there's something you've mentioned, I always, part of it is I can't fucking think now. I'm so exhausted from COVID and everything I'm dealing with my loss of my eyesight and hearing. I'm so exhausted, so I can't remember anything. So I apologize. But is it there's a part? There's like three parts to revolution. There's friendship, surprise, and there's one more, right?
Yes,
Am I saying the right thing? Am I
yes,
off?
yes, 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 yes. I am just forgetting in this moment. It is that expression that is um, hmm,
Well, the main thing I'm trying to get at is surprise because I want to talk about that before we disconnect about how important surprise is and what that means in the context of creating social change.
yes, it is in a very real sense. It is the same in the sense that we don't know what will happen, that we cannot trust any projection of the future and any idea what the future will be, any assumption that things will be tomorrow exactly the same as they are today, and then to be ready to be surprised by Rachel, surprised by your stepson, surprised by the sun, how they will rise tomorrow, um, surprised by life, to live in a permanent surprise. And Brian, I know very well how much suffering and anxiety can be created by your disease. But tomorrow morning, you can celebrate in the morning to wake up because you have another day of life, because you are not dead. Accept to be surprised by the most elementary things of life, of what will happen in the real world, how the world can surprise you every day, just giving you another day of life. It should be a surprise and then a joy, not take for granted that tomorrow you will be alive. Instead of assuming that you have under your control your life and everything, is to accept that Brian, I know how much Rachel loves you, but please accept the joy of the surprise of her love today and tomorrow and every day.
She surprises me every day in beautiful ways. And, what I'm hearing, is going back to the beginning is not having those expectations, but
No,
nurturing that
no.
hope. And not only that, when you say surprise, it seems infused with gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. Is first you are not taking for granted nothing. That is the most important ingredient of hope. The trust in the um, generosity of reality, of nature, of the world. And then you have uh, a feeling of gratitude to the world because the world gave to you another day of life, or the love of Rachel, or the continue. You have another day of love of Rachel. You should be grateful
And
for
I'm
that
grateful
gift.
for our friendship. I'm grateful that we're having this conversation.
Yes, that's a gift, a real gift. Our friendship is a fantastic gift. It's a beautiful gift. Um, Brian, I am exactly twice as old as you. We. I am 84. You are 42, and we are close friends. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
This is it's a surprise. You should be grateful
I have
of this
immense
kind of friendship.
I have immense appreciation every day for our friendship, and I think this is a wonderful place to close our conversation for now. And but is there anything that you would like to say before we close this?
Yeah. There is one magnificent phrase repeated by John Berger. In every time of despair, there is a lot of hope. This looks like a stupid paradox, like a stupid phrase. It is very wise to think about that.
Can you say it one more time?
In times of despair, there is always a lot of hope.
Hmm.
You cannot live with despair, but because in the despair, when you apparently lost any hope, then suddenly there are abundance of hope that keeps you going.
I can relate to that. Sometimes I think about my own sense of hope in my despair, and I'm wondering why it's there. Sometimes why that spark of hope is there,
You know
and
why? Because you are losing your eyes. Yes, you are losing your many senses, many aspects of your life. You cannot do many things of the kind of things that you were doing. But it is not only you still have yourself, your basic self is still there, but you still have a lot of love because of the people loving you and because of the people you love. It's both ways, the love you get and the love you give. That is the important point. And that is a source of hope. And that is a reason to be grateful. In spite of your limitations, in spite of your tragic loss of very important senses.
yeah, I'm always a little bit worried that my mind will go next, and I kind of feel like so just because of the exhaustion, it is it is going.
I know.
Mm.
That is something that we need to talk again. That will be another conversation, not necessarily this kind of conversation about your job and how you need to find another kind of life, another kind of activity, how to abandon. That is something to discuss. We are against work. We are trying to avoid work. And in our construction and our autonomous construction, we are explicitly trying to avoid all kind of work. Let's talk about that next time.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Gustavo. I love you very much. It's always a pleasure having these conversations, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So, until then, stay healthy and safe, and give my best to Nicole and tell her that I love her as well. And let's talk soon.
Soon, Brian.
And
Hugs
now,
for everyone.
and now we have our awkward ending. So hold on one moment.
Yes,
Oops. Oh, it's not okay. Hold on one second. Now, okay, here.
it is.
Hold on.
It is still recording. Yes.